Hola, bienvenidos a otro miércoles de SOMA. Hoy tenemos con nosotros a Georgina Maxim. Como la presentación es en inglés, voy a hacer ahorita el switch y la presentaré brevemente en inglés. Si alguien dice, no, yo quiero en español, pues me la echo en español también. Georgina Maxim is a textile artist and curator born in 1980 in Zimbabwe. Her work focuses on the use of textiles, especially second-hand clothing, to explore memory, heritage, and the search for her mother. Maxim develops her practice through embroidery, sewing, and weaving techniques, deconstructing and reconstructing used garments to create unique pieces she describes them as acts of memory and transcriptions of experiences and stories. Her work has been exhibited both locally and internationally. In 2012, she co-founded Village Unhu, an artist-run space in Harare that provides studio, exhibitions, workshops, and residency programs for emerging artists and professionals. In this Miércoles de SOMA, Maxim will share her creative process and how textiles become a medium for memory and personal storytelling.
Good evening. Are you all able to hear me well? And thank you so much for waiting, for coming, for taking the time to hear how my mind tries to work. In my presentation, I'm going to do my best to show what I do firstly. I have a partner who is a painter. We created the space Village Unhu together. And I think you see a small picture of us standing in front of deconstructing a space that we bought to try and continue to create other avenues for other artists. And I will show some of his works as well. And then I'll probably concentrate more on the Village Unhu as the passion of the things that we would like to eventually create in Zimbabwe. I'm far away from home. And right now everybody's sleeping in Zimbabwe, but it's quite interesting that in a day you can get 8 hours of your own free time without any kind of disturbances back home. So I'm quite grateful for that. So in my first slide, and thank you for the introduction, I think whilst you were waiting you were able to read the few lines that I put there. But I will quickly jump to the next slide that shows my work. That particular work was created during a residency program in Madagascar, in Antananarivo, at a place called Foundation Edge. The interesting thing about that is that I took my 3 children with me. It was their first time to travel with me, especially into a residency program. I tailor-made it to be in a time when they were on school holidays, which was in August, and they stayed with me for a month. And from this particular work, I like this image very much because it shows not necessarily the magnitude of the work, but it also shows the chance to stand and try to marvel that particular artwork. It's folded slightly, to show like a kind of like a hanging piece. And it's the same kind of manner that Gallery Nodenhake has also done quite beautifully in the exhibition, which you, if you get the chance to go and see it, because the idea is to try and show the front, which can be the back, or the back, which can be the front. And it's something that we now try to, I think, to preserve, like in the manner that you try to preserve pickled onions or pickled garlic or pickled gherkins, and then you show both sides of the work, where not necessarily showing the stitching, but also showing how one can view the front of yourself or the back of yourself. The next is a catalogue of my work, which is called This Place Will Become a Memory. And memory shapes a very important word to me. Because many people want to run away from any memories. They want to hold on to certain kind of memories, and these certain kind of memories are only supposed to be good memories, and yet the bad memories also shape who we are as a person. And when I look at clothes, unfortunately, I only work with female clothes. It's not a bias, but there's something beautiful about the female clothes that I try to capture. One, there's the issue of responsibility. When a female is wearing a dress, whether it's a light dress or it's a floral dress, there's something that happens to wearing it. There's a responsibility with that. There's an understanding of that I am in this particular dress, and if the wind comes, anything can happen, so I have to be responsible. There's also the small experiment that I did, where whilst I was wearing a dress, I asked my young son, at that time he was about 9, and I said, behave hysterically somewhere there, just behave like you're lost, and let's see how many people respond. And the response that people had was that they looked at me, who was wearing the dress, and whilst everybody else who was around was still, wearing their usual trousers or skirt or something, but the first response was me, because I'm the one who's wearing a dress. So it comes again with the word responsibility. So in this catalog or monologue of a collection of my works, there's the writing about how I search for this particular one woman who is my mother, who I never met. She passed away when I was 3 months old. And when I try to gather all these dresses, I feel as if maybe her spirit, maybe her aura will find me whilst I'm working. I work with stitches, I work with wool, I do a lot of sewing, which means I have lots of hours of being alone, but not lonely. I also enjoy, challenging myself, creating different shapes. To me, this looks like a dream catcher, but the beginning of it is a tablecloth. And we grew up with these tablecloths that look like lace, kind of material. And it was always placed around the table. You'd visit somebody, and these memories sort of come back to me like a quick flash. They smack me somehow, very quickly, and I continue to hold on to them to say, we can prolong these memories much, much longer than how we experienced that particular moment. So for now, I stop with my work, and then before I go to my partner, my husband's work, I wanted to become a painter. I went to school, I started painting. I thought I'm this amazing brushstroke artist. And then I met this person. And we started living together, and every day, working at the gallery at the same time in Harare, living with him at the same time, watching him paint, looking at the paintings in a gallery, I started looking at myself and started doubting if I am really truly a painter, which is a bit sad, and I have to be honest. It was sad for me to start asking myself those questions. Am I really a painter, or I'm somebody who likes to look at paintings, who reads paintings, who enjoys looking at paintings? And there's this man who paints in such an amazing gesture, best of color. And it's only now that he's working with these kind of abstract, but he used to have figurative paintings. And I fell in love with those figures, where you would feel the emotion of the person that he painted. You would understand what was missing in that person. And you could add on a feeling of yours into. So sometimes he gets annoyed with me that I say I fell in love with his paintings before him, but it's okay. I mean, he can't complain, but we're still together. We still manage to do those things. So, so the two of us realized that there is something that is missing. We were coming from a sort of a similar background, where we wanted to become artists. We were looking for that support. We were looking for the spaces that would give us that kind of, kickstart, catapult, jumpstart. Don't start from point 0, but you can start from point 5. And then we met at this particular gallery that I was working at and where he was showing. And then we started listening to the stories of the other artists. And they were telling us that they are working underneath their bed, which means they were just occupying a small space in their bedrooms. They were wanting to become artists, but when the urge came, they probably lifted the bed and created space for themselves. So we called it working underneath the bed. We then said, why don't we come together and create this place called Village Unhu? When we define Village Unhu, we define it in 2 words. Village, a space where people come together, a space where people fetch water from the same spot, a place where when they are fetching water, there are stories that are shared, no one is living in a secretive environment. And then Unhu, coming from the Ubuntu word, meaning what makes us human. If I am to see you down and under, what is it that I'm supposed to do to recognize that you are a fellow human being? Do I walk away? Do I offer my hand? Do I break the bread and share half of the slice of bread? So we decided to put those 2 words together and say, as Village Unhu, let us open up our space. So we opened up our house, which kind of like looks the same as this one, where at the bottom, we then, I will show images, where at the bottom, we turned it into a gallery. Then the kids and I would, and the family would live upstairs. And the most important thing that then happened was the kitchen. In Zimbabwe, the kitchen is a very important space for the woman. I think it's also quite universal, that it's a place where women can, have kitchen gossip, where you show your, another section of your heart and love by preparing a meal in the kitchen, where you find the nice cup and the teapot, and you display those things, and you feel that this is my home. And I had to surrender that. I had to surrender the kitchen to allow other artists to open the fridge freely, to make a meal for themselves, to gather around, to create this Ubuntu that I gave the definition, what makes us human. And I'm going to play a small video that shows the second place where we have bought a backpacker's space. And this was our first exhibition and almost like an official opening. And we said, this is the place that people can now come and, oh, sorry, too quick, huh? Okay. And we bought the existing structure was, at the bottom it was a restaurant, at the top it was a beer hall, and then it had lodges. And the lodges were used for people to spend a night or to, find a spot to recline and to relax. So I will play the video. So, okay, if you hold on to that video for a little while, I'll take you to the first place, the Village Unhu in Harare. Remember I said we gave away the bottom floor, and then we were living upstairs, and this is the Harare space. We bought a container, and that particular container is a studio space for artists who would like to come into residency and work from that container. It also has a quarter of it is storage, where we keep all our tools, because we now taught each other how to make frames, how to cut steel. Then the middle part has a storage space for all the artworks that were donated to us, or the works that we were experimenting with, or the works that were never collected by other artists. And then the front part is where the artist works from. And this is the gallery house. This was an exhibition of an artist that had come from Switzerland. His name was Reto Steiner. He had stayed with us for about 3 months, and that was last year. And we turned the space into like a sculpture space. Remember, Zimbabwe is also very popular with the stone sculpture. And Zimbabwe is, in its meaning, it means a house of stone. So there are lots of stones that you find in Zimbabwe, and we're known for being great carvers, doing quite stonework, to the point that painting is considered a second kind of media, even though now it balances quite well. And then the found material that I use is now considered a third one. Of course, there's photography, there's performance, there's conceptual art as well. But these are the 3 main ones that when Zimbabweans talk about their art forms, we mention these particular spaces. The space also changes and becomes a studio when we are not showing any exhibitions. Our exhibitions are not monthly. We try to do, after every 3 months, a good exhibition, because we then have students who come to our place who are either studying an particular artist, or who visit to do like an art camp. I'll show you some pictures there. So Village Unhu also has other projects that it does. We go to art fairs because we have artists around us. And it's good to continue to produce, but after producing we need to show what it is that we are doing. So we go to art fairs. We've been to the most popular ones that are in South Africa, one in Johannesburg, one in Cape Town. We've also tried to find ourselves in the UK to do the 154 with the help of many other people. We also have collaborative exhibitions. We enter into spaces, and this is the National Gallery of Zimbabwe, where we drove in our black car, our small beetle that we cut up and did all fun things. And we drove it into the gallery, left it there for a whole month. We even went on the other side of the slide where you see the grey and the green. We entered into the National Gallery, changed the whole colors, and displayed an exhibition of our choice. And we got into trouble. There's always that. We were displaying works that were considered quite vocal, too vocal, not political, but on the side of it being too rude, if I can use that word. And then when it comes to schools, we enter into schools. We are either invited by the schools, or we propose a program where we say we want to bridge the gap between the classroom and the gallery, or the classroom and the studio, and we use ourselves as artists as a point of influence, as a point of motivation, so that the students don't see art as it doesn't have a prolonged career. So we enter into schools and we provide art camps, and we do all these different kind of things. So it's just a highlight of the things that we do. So we go back to that place with the video. If you get the chance, read the book, The Last Resort. The Last Resort is based on a memoir about that particular space, which has that video written by the child of the late Roslyn and Lynn Rogers. We were approached by them in a way through the daughter to say there's a space that is just empty, and we know that you can do amazing things to it. So would you like to buy it? So we started buying it slowly, and at first we thought it would become our home. We thought it was nice. We can live here, and all the lodges on the side can become artist residencies, and we can live with the artists because we've been living with artists anyway. It's not a problem. So we then went, and then we bought this space, and I'm showing you the map of how vast this land is. It's crazy huge. We're talking about mountains, 5 of them. We're talking about 90 hectares. I don't know if you use hectares here, which are unused virgin land, which we are saying we will propose to many people to build a first museum outside of Harare and create a feature out of that. There are also other houses and families living in this particular mountain, 18 other houses. So we are within the community as well. We are also living with those people at the same time. A good thing for my children, a good thing for any other artist who comes in, because you're not alone, you're not by yourself. But we are in the process of understanding what it is that we can propose to do. So I hope you can also see, maybe it's a bit hazy, but we're proposing a school of art, we're proposing a museum, we're proposing further artist residency spaces, we're proposing a sculpture park. We're hoping we could do that before we die, hopefully. So I'm going to show you pictures of how that space looks like. Beautiful green spaces, a spot that you can, and this is where I live, and this is where I create my works now. And I think if you want to remove me now, you need to bring a bulldozer to pull me out. Because there's quite a lot of stuff that are there. There was a dam, and when it rains, the dam fills up with dirty water, but it's good to have a water feature around. This is me driving around with my dog. It's a fun picture, I love it, and I decided to show it. This is when we were breaking up the lodge, the main building. It didn't have the steps that you saw people going up, so we broke down walls, we created a connection between the ground floor and the top floor. Of course, there were people that used to enter, but they would enter from outside, but we wanted to create a unison between the spaces. It was a labor of love, crazy time of pulling your hair, but we totally enjoyed the whole process. Now, in the mountain, there is one house that we were offered as well, and we said we would be happy to take it. And then we started renovating this house, and it's one of the residency spaces that a person can literally live in that space. We currently, there's an artist, a Zimbabwean artist living there, and he's preparing for his show, so he's been staying there for a couple of months, which is nice, and he's very much changed the space and how the geography kind of looks like. It's no longer as empty as it is now, because he's now put his own furniture, and it looks really amazing. But it was fun. So the 18 houses also look almost like this, even though the families that ended up buying some of these houses ended up extending, because it's just a 2-bedroom space, and then people have a few more kids, they also have relatives, so now some people have 4 bedrooms, but this particular one has 2 bedrooms, and it's available for residency programs. And it was also a nice fun project to renovate, to see how you can put your touch of color and craziness in it. But it's a very welcoming space. Sometimes I used to think that if I really get tired of staying in the other house, I can just move in, because kids will grow, they'll go away. Who wants to stay in a huge house by themselves? So it's quite neat and compact like that. Okay. You see color. It's all about color. It's all about huge colors. Okay, I'll go to the next slide because I think this is the last part. The space, Village Unhu. We found it with these existing structures, round huts. Remember, it was a backpackers lodge, and there were a lot of tourists that would come and want to have the feeling of living in this thatched round house. So we are not going to demolish them. We're going to keep them for historical purposes. It's now showing you the space where the gallery, the exhibition happened. I'll just go through it quite quickly. There's a bridge that we want to build. There was a makeshift wood bridge, but we are currently building a better bridge because we want to collect water. Water sometimes can be a bit of a problem. We're now in summer, and it's quite hot in Zimbabwe. And we always think if you have a reservoir for water, lots of things can continue to thrive and to grow. And this is the lodges that we're still renovating. to expand the residency program. So with that in mind, I come to the last part and the last slide. And I'm happy to go back to any slide for any questions, but thank you.
No sé si alguien tenga alguna pregunta, comentarios, lo que sea, es un espacio abierto. Adelante.
No, pues que nos diga cómo aplicar a la residencia. Se ve muy bonito por allá.
¿Quieres decir en inglés o se lo digo yo?
I'm wondering how we can apply to the residency program.
Oh.
It sounds incredible.
It's
beautiful.
Look, we started in 2009, and then we officially We started in 2009, and then we officially registered ourselves under the Zimbabwean law to be able to get a bank account, to be able to contribute to taxes, to literally have the law, to be law-abiding citizens in 2012. And since then, we've been getting artists who can, it's a simple letter. Can you send me an invitation letter? Of course, there's always the issue, we should not run away from the main fact, funding. The issues of funding need to be considered, and if you are able to find funding, or we can work together to create a project and find funding together, that's not a problem. Everybody is absolutely welcome, and it would be fantastic to have someone come as far as this. Remember, it's 24 hours of flight, so you need to please. But yes, it's worthwhile. And we are trying to collaborate with as many spaces as possible. Mutare is about 3 hours away from the capital city. It shouldn't worry you because there are many ways to get there. There's a small flight that is now being chartered to there, or about 1 hour, 15 minutes. Or you can drive, which is 3 hours, because you do several stops. You get to see some other spaces on your way. And you can also cross over. We are only 30 minutes away from Mozambique, so you can also cross over to go to Mozambique to see what else is there. But it's the most beautiful part of the country because it's in the mountains, it's forever green. It links you to many other natural things. The soil there is red soil, so you can partner with the old women who do clay. There's also grass, which is like where you make the carpets or grass mat. It's a pity there used to be a national gallery and it closed down. So now we as Village Unhu have the burden now to satisfy the growing artistic community. So you are now getting to know other artists who live in Mutare as well. It's a thriving small city with a huge university that not only takes in Zimbabwean students, but also has students coming from Mozambique, Angola, South Africa. So it's quite a multi-diverse space, this small city called Mutare. So yes, you are most welcome to begin to apply to. We don't even have a calling. We just say if you feel like you want to come on, maybe we should do that. We're in the process of now creating a very good website, a better looking website, where it makes more sense to click on it, see what's going on, be part of the progress of what's happening, be part of the renovations, the demolitions, the growing space as well. So yeah, okay.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
How do you manage that synergy between the small city that's growing and growing and the village? Because at the end, the environment shapes what you're doing in that place. So I'm curious about that.
Okay. So remember, I work with techniques that are considered granny techniques. And for someone of my age, I'm turning 45 this year, I'm not supposed to be doing these granny techniques. So if you tap into the older generation, they are really like walking archives. They have so much information that they can give you, and they are very willing to share whatever it is that they have. The community around us, the 18 houses that I talked about, I took my time to study every person to see what is it that they have hiding in their in their hearts, in their minds, in their pockets. One is a very good guide for walks, knows a lot about the trees. So we then created a once a month walk in the mountains, which he guides to everybody else to teach them about the trees, about the mountains. And at that same time, the community now knows the boundaries of that whole map space. Because they were just living and saying, I'm here, this is my boundary of my home, and that's enough. Then we said, no, 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 it's not about just your home. We are allowing ourselves to open up to see what else is behind all of us. And in that way, people begin to guard the space better. There is another person who's a very good storyteller. He's an elderly man. He used to be a headmaster. He's a good storyteller. He plays the lira, which is an instrument in Zimbabwe. And then we say, we've got children here. You can tap into that. And then I started investing in vintage bicycles. And then I said, very biased as well, the vintage bicycles are lady-ridden, which have like a curve, not like a bar. And then many of the people around me were telling me, I don't know how to ride a bicycle. And I'm like, okay, we can learn. We can go up and down. If we fall, we fall. If we don't, we don't. And then there used to be a community swimming pool that somehow died out. But one of the residents decided, I'm going to build a new swimming pool so that all the kids, so in a way, we said we're not here to change things. We are here to add more value to the space. And I think when the community started seeing that, they also extended their knowledge of the space, their care for the space. So I think you start firstly yourself to show that you're willing, and then people, you kind of like draw people, you become a magnet. So it became very easy for me to do that. I didn't come into the city of Mutare to be a face, but I used myself as an artist, an international artist, who was flying the flag of Zimbabwe very high. And I said, it's not only my job, it's also your job, and we can work together through that. Yeah. The same with my husband. It's a pity he didn't manage to come. He has the flu. I don't know how he managed to get it, but we got rained on when we were coming from the Museum Tamayo, and he was trying to be the macho guy, but I was like, but he's got the flu, and he would have quite enjoyed being here. So apologies on his behalf as well. Yeah. The short cable.
Yeah.
Yes, I would like to know a little bit about the process which you choose the textiles you work with. Like, is it the color, the texture, what is it?
Okay, so can I keep this one or maybe this one which is more colors? Okay. So, I have a problem with green. I love green. I love it so much to the point that I guard it jealously. To the point that you might not find green in my work. You can find touches of a turquoise, close to green, but the certain kind of green that I really like, you might not find it in there. Then secondly, the base of the work, whatever the stitches are going to sit on, has to be floral. Of late, it has to be very floral. And when it's floral, then you are trying to pick up the colors within that first base cloth. Now, the stitch that I use is called Inshona Dungem Tunge. It's a quick in and out stitch. You go in and you go out, you go in, you go out. And it looks like it's not a strong stitch, but it's very strong. It is used in many places for when you have a scar. It brings that scar together, and in and out, and in and out. 1. 2, it is used on cotton bales, because we're an agricultural country. We have tobacco, we have cotton bales, and then you see that stitch also on those cotton bales. And then 3, when I work, for example, I'm wearing something light blue. For the stitches to be seen, I have to use a different color. So I can work with red, I can work with black, I can work with purple, pinks and all that. Because it's in the stitch, the work is about the stitch. It's about the process of doing that stitching. Of like what I said, of being alone, but not lonely. And then that stitch also, I used to use it quite a lot when I was a kid, where we didn't care about making sure that the dress is white, so find a white thread to repair it when it's torn. All we just did was find the needle, and whatever colored thread was on the needle, that's what I'm going to use. Because why should I begin to find white which matches white? So those things also informed my work of how, not necessarily being careless, but also thinking how else can I show the stitch. If of course I've done works that are white on white, but white is never white. White is like an ivory white. White is like you are already whites, but they're not whites. So there's always that difference in colors. And then I work with two works at the same time. I work with one work here, work with one work on the other side. Because if I'm working with black, I'm going to get tired of black. Surely I'm going to get bored with black. So I shift and I go to something colorful. And then I start seeing the same colors. Even if it's a yellow, I keep thinking, I've used this yellow before, and yet it's a different yellow. So you get tired, and then I go back to the black. So you want like a in and out. The same way the stitching goes in and out, that's the same way I do with my work. Black here, go to the point that after 2 months, or after 3 weeks of intense sitting in the studio, I can bring out two works at the same time. It's, yeah, after that your hands are ugly, but you can always have nails. You can always get a manicure. Yeah. I hope I've answered.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi. I want to know how to find the textiles.
The textiles.
The textiles. Yeah.
When you find that the paint is not your favorite technique, how do you find the textiles like your thing?
Ah, yes. That's a very nice story. It's a very nice story how I ended up discovering textiles. So I'll take you back to our tradition. When somebody dies, a relative, close person, we mourn that person for 3 days. And the mourning process is we all come together to one house, and we stay there for 3 days. And the process of that is mixed. It's like a high and a low and a high and a low. By high, I mean I probably would be the first one to arrive at the house, and there's already somebody, and then we cry our hearts out, and then after that, you go to a low point, and you can even remember the person who was deceased and crack a joke, and say, oh, if she was here, she would have told us, you guys, why are you crying? Stop making noise for me. And then we'd laugh about it. Like in the case of my sister. I lost my sister quite recently from cancer, and we went through these highs and lows. And then somebody else then comes in that 3-day process. Then you are all reminded of how close you were together. You remember the things that you did. Then you go up again in crying, and then you go low again by beginning to share memories, to even forget that you are all gathered here to bury your relative. Then on the 3rd day, we bury the person, and then majority of the people go away, and then the very close people still stay behind for another night. And then the next morning, we go to the gravesite, because we are quite spiritual. We have many beliefs. We go there to see if the grave is still intact, it has not been tampered with, and we also speak to our loved one, our dead one, and we say, we're here, are you okay, are you comfortable? We kind of like try to, ascertain if they are okay with where they are now. And then we go back to our home, that same house, and then we take out all the belongings of that person. And the belongings is clothes, if it's a woman, the pots, if they had a car, the car, if they had children, the children. And we put everything in the middle of the yard, and we begin to distribute. We give away. And there are some people who fold their hands like this, and they don't accept the clothes, because they say, I don't like it, or I don't actually want that dress of that person. So now this takes me to my grandmother. My grandmother passed away when I was barely 16. I just turned 16. And after that, those clothes that either people just took and put on the side and left them there were put in a suitcase. And then I went back home just to visit. And then I saw this suitcase at the top. And I asked, why do we still have that suitcase? And this is when I was teaching art. I was now living with my husband, and I was trying by all means to find my way back into producing works. Even though I was drawing with the students at school, but I felt it wasn't enough. So then I said, why is that suitcase still there? And then my aunt said, oh, it still has your grandmother's stuff. I don't know what to do with it. So I took it down. And I said, oh, there's some nice stuff in here. I can wear it. And then she's like, yeah, but it's outdated. And I said, come on, this is me. I can wear such things, it's not a problem. So I wore it for a little bit. And then one of the dresses got torn. Then I asked myself, should I repair it? Then there's this process, this ritual that says, if the clothes are not pricked with a needle, then don't repair it. Then I went back and I said to my aunt, were these clothes pricked? And she said, I don't think so, you don't need to repair it. And I said, I'm going to repair it. Then I started repairing it. But then I repaired it with the wool that was not matching. That's how I was saying, oh, this looks nice. You know, you start off by, this looks nice. And then it gets torn again. And then then I was like, I'm not going to save this dress. So I cut it up. And I started creating, that's how it started. Cutting up things, creating a new dress, a new memory, a new seeing of my grandmother. And that's how it clearly started, just like that. And I made one work which I got a prize for, which was a pinafore dress. And then I made pom-poms, and I stuck pom-poms on it. And I gave it a very bad title, and I called it Sex in the Bushes, because it's like I'm trying to mimic things that happen in the bushes, you know. And I got into trouble for it. My husband kept asking me, why did you give that title? I was like, yeah, it's just a work, you know. But that's how, and slowly it started multiplying and seeing if this makes sense. If I cut this, if I put it back, if I sew it on, do I create form, do I create depth? And then started chopping off the arms of the dress, started keeping the buttons, started creating the big flared skirt, like in this kind of manner. This is my graduation skirt. Started picking lace, started, you know, feeling feminine about the things that I was doing, enjoying them. And eventually, I started exhibiting all over again. Started being asked to participate in exhibitions. Started, you know, researching more about cloth and the traditions of what happens to the deceased person's clothes. Exchanging clothes with people, telling people I can make something out of your deceased mother's clothes. And remember, I only work with women clothes, like I'd say. Did I say that before?
Yes.
Only women clothes. And tried to, you know, do more to that. I started getting commissions, started participating in a lot of things. And now I'm in Mexico.
¿Nadie tiene alguna pregunta más? ¿Comentario? No, atrás, es que atrás no los veo. Okay, perfecto. I have one last question. Yes, I had a lot of questions.
Oh no, you tell me, ask me. It's okay.
You said this was like searching for your mother.
Yes.
And you said you work a lot with dresses. You know,
Yes.
dresses are a very motherly
Yeah.
thing and very feminine thing as well. Have you ever felt like this connection to her just through the dresses?
Okay, so my mother passed away, like I said, 3 months after giving birth to me. And now I'm a mother. And it's sort of makes it appear like I'm curating the memories to my children, but not in a harsh way. But I'll tell you of an experience that happened to me in Sao Paulo, Salvador Bahia. I was in a residency program at the Goethe Institute, and it was similar to this kind of room. I was sitting there quietly, but I was in between wanting to take a nap, an afternoon nap, and wanting to say, you know what, you can't sleep, keep on working. And I was 38 years old at that time. And in between, dozing off and forcing to continue to work, it felt as if someone came to me and said, for how long do you want me to live like this? And for days, I didn't understand that question. But only to then remember that, oh, it probably is my mother, because we never did anything to a grave site. We never put a tombstone on it. And I hardly go there because I didn't want to continue to feel that pain of not having her, of having to borrow mothers, because I lived a life of borrowed mothers. And I would borrow these mothers like a library. And when the children wanted their mothers back, I had to return that mother. Then I realized, no, I have to go through that pain. So I started calling. The first person I called was my husband to say, I think I understand the words that were said to me in between sleeping and not sleeping. And I think it's my mother who's asking me to do up her grave quite nicely. And in 3 months, we did it. We put a tombstone, and from then on, my works began to follow the traces of what a mother is. And I started using myself as a very good example. And then I started collecting uniforms of the supporting staff, the maids that stay behind with our children, because they have these big pockets around them. And in those pockets, like all women here, I think you can testify that in our pockets we hardly find money, but we find tissue paper, a receipt, and if you've got children, you can find a doll in it. And that's why when you go and see my work, you see that there are elements of dolls in it. And it's not just a doll, it's a memory of some things that were forgotten in those pockets. You can find a scrunch in it, you can find a pin, a safety pin or a hairpin, and all those are motherly things that I will continue to search. And I hope I'm doing the right thing to my children to be part, or them being part of my life, because they can choose eventually. They're not interested. But I'm hoping that what I didn't have, the relationship that I didn't have with my mother, is not the same one that my children are going to have. I don't want them to search for a mother, and yet I'm here. And they can find me easily. They can find me in a book, they can find me in an artwork, they can find me in my favorite clothes, they can find me in my favorite colors, they can find me in my food, such things. Yeah.
Bien, ¿ninguna otra pregunta? Bueno, thank you so much for talking with us and sharing your work. Y gracias a ustedes por acompañarnos a otro miércoles de Soma.
I hope I didn't take too much time talking.
Not at all.
No.